Hello and welcome to this Oak Tree English video all about SPaG. No, I'm not talking about spaghetti. I am not going to talk about any sort of Italian cuisine of any description. We're going to talk about spelling, punctuation, and grammar. That's right. The spelling, punctuation, and grammar is one of the things that sort of like lets people down quite often in the functional skills exam, particularly the writing exam. It's 14 of the 36 required marks. That's 39%. 38.8 recurring if you want to be technical, which is nearly or just about 2/5 of the mark. So this is not something you can ignore. For some of you, this is going to be pathetically easy and you can stop watching as soon as you've topped out. However, for many of you, particularly my international friends, native English people will not have the same problems that you guys have. So keep watching because I think you'll learn something useful. So, would you like to know what you're going to be marked on? Of course you would. So here it is. This is direct from a functional skills level 2 marking scheme. Ooh, that's right. It's that exciting. And this is in more detail. Let's have a quick look. So what we're actually interested in is this part. Use a range of punctuation, use correct grammar, and spell words. Specifically, it says use correct grammar, for example, only example, subject verb agreement, consistent use of different tenses, definite and indefinite articles with occasional lapses. Most of the native students, native English speakers, are now thinking, what's just happened? Don't panic about the technical language. I'm going to decode it for you. Correct use of punctuation, for example, full stops, question marks, exclamation marks, commas, possessive apostrophes with occasional lapses. Once again, I'm going to decode this for you. And spelling. Spelling of words used most often in work, study, and daily life, including specialist words, is accurate with occasional lapses. That's the top band. That's what you're aiming for. Notice, occasional lapses are accepted. You're not going to be crucified for missing out a letter occasionally. But if you can spell things right, you want to. Am I right? Of course I'm right. Let's crack on. Start off with spelling. The S of SPaG. Here we're looking at spelling of words most often used in work, study, and daily life. Notice you're not being asked to spell transubstantiation. If it's a low frequency word, you will not be expected to spell it accurately so long as it's recognizable. If it's a high frequency word, then you should know how to spell it. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at some homophones. And we're also going to look at some common mistakes. So homophones, what are homophones? Well, thank you for asking. A homophone is something that sounds the same. Homo or homo, the same, like homo sapiens or homosexual. And phones, or homogenized milk, phones are things that sound the same. So if words that sound the same, here are some examples that constantly and incredibly frustratingly get mixed up. So let's have a look. There. No, I wasn't just comforting you because I'm a comforting kind of chap. No, there is, when you're talking about over there, is THERE. Notice it's got here in it. There's a quick tip for you. There means belonging to them. Please notice it's got heir in it, HEIR, meaning one who inherits. They are there. Notice the apostrophe, that is an omissive apostrophe. Ooh. It is they are. So they are over there. They're over there. Different spellings same sound, often get confused. Don't confuse them. You now have no excuse because you know everything. Here. Notice that when you're talking about here, it's the same spelling as there, which is neither here nor there. Okay. And here, which is what you do with these things on the side of your head. Notice it ends in EAR, which is the same way you spell ear. Ear. Bye bye bye. Bye bye bye. No, I'm not just saying goodbye to you. Oh, I've mistyped that. The end one should be BYE. Please ignore that and let's not draw attention to it. So buy, BUY, is you give me your money, I give you awesome content online. Okay, it doesn't quite work like that. You give me money, I give you a glass of water. By is a preposition. The shop is by the sea. I went to Barry recently. It's a lovely place, much more than Gavin and Stacey. BYE is short for goodbye. Now here's a little thing that you don't need to know. Goodbye originally meant God be with you. God be with you. Of course, the U would have been YE, ye. Therefore, God be with ye, withy, got shortened to goodbye. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. And that is BYE. Now, what I've put on the board should not make you bored. See what I've done there? So you play board games when you're bored. A board, B-O-A-R-D, is a noun that you play with. Bored, B-O-R-E-D, is when you are tired of doing something and you just got nothing to do, can't think of anything to do, and you're just bored. By the way, a bored person is often a boring person, so make yourself more interesting. So there we go. That's they sound the same. They're both said bored, but it's important to spell it correctly because if you spell it wrong, it changes the meaning. Dear. Done it again. A deer is a big thing with antlers, which jumps out in front of cars late at night. Be careful not to hit them. Whereas dear, D-E-A-R, is where something is either very expensive or it's how you start a letter. Dear sir, I write to complain about all of the deer on the side of the road. Please note, the plural of deer is deer. Same with fish. There's no such word as fishes or deers. Deer and fish. And sheep. Just wanted to point that out. Because plurals are often misspelt. Talking of misspellings, here are some other common spelling mistakes. Other common spelling mistakes. You see, I spelt every word wrong in the title there. Do you like that? I thought you would. This is the Oxford Dictionary's top 10 misspelt words. And they fall into certain categories, things that are often misspelt. So let's look at them. Accommodate, double C, double M. Double letters often catch people out. If you know you use a word with lots of double letters, make sure you know how to spell it. Okay, I don't think that's a complicated concept. Make sure you know how to spell it when you go into the exam. Which. You've got to ask which is which. And which watch is which watch. Which watch is which watch. Which, W-H-I-C-H, is one of the most commonly misspelled words because of silent letter. There's a silent letter in the H. So normally it gets spelled W-I-C-H. Possibly W-I-T-C-H, which, by the way, is a homophone, meaning that sort of witch. The sort of witch that stirs a cauldron. So if you've got silent letters, like knife or night, make sure you know where those silent letters go in words that you use frequently. If you struggle with this because you are dyslexic or an international student, English, I apologize for our language. English has the most ridiculous spelling rules in the world. I'm so sorry. If you have problems with this, you need to learn them well, because you won't be able to work it out immediately in the exam. Receive. Receive often gets spelt wrong. This is because of the I before E rule. The normal rule is I before E. Yay, we all know that. No, lovely. Unfortunately, the goes on. I before E except after C. Well, that's great. That works sometimes. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work. It only works when the sound is E. So now we have the rule. I before E except after C, but only when the sound is E. As you see, receive comes after the I and the E come after the C, therefore it's EI. Same with receipt. You can, that's something for your proofreading when you go back and look over it again. Now you see the double letter thing works the other way as well. Until is very often misspelt. People would put an extra L at the end. Till, sorry, until has only one L. Till, the thing that you put money in when you've paid, when you've bought something. Here we go. Buy. You buy something by giving someone money, which they then put in the till with a double L, and then you say goodbye. Whew, this is getting complicated now. So until has one L. Occurred, however, has two C's and two R's. What's occurring? And that was atrocious. I apologise to all Welsh people who see this video. I'm sorry, so sorry. The occurred has double letters. Just be aware of double letters. Now, number 6 in the list of misspelt words. Separate. Separate. A lot of people will spell this separate. Separate, because they're doing it phonetically. They spell it as it sounds. That doesn't always work, particularly in English. Think about the city Worcester, Worcester, or Leicester, L-E-I-C-E-S-T-E-R, Leicester. It doesn't work. So phonetic spelling does not work in English because English is a mix of so many different languages. We are a Germanic language officially, but we have lots of French words, which is a Romance language. We have words from various other nations that we have invaded or been invaded by. We've got loads of Greek words in there because that was the lingua franca of the Roman Empire. We've got loads of Latin words because we were invaded by the Latins. We've got loads of Norse words coming from out of the Vikings who dominated us for a while. We stole words from India. Thank you for both your bungalows and your pajamas. We've got words from all over the world. So English spelling is not uniform. I'm sorry. Here's another nice one though. Government. The way you can remember this is that it has an N in it. We say government. We don't say government, but it is the place where things are governed. So we've got here an affix, technically a suffix. That's one that comes at the end, as against a prefix which comes at the beginning. I don't want to go all anti-disestablishmentarian on you, but that's got loads of suffixes and affixes. Brilliant word to teach suffixes and affixes with. Government has that N in it because you've got the ment at the end changing the type of word. So to govern is a verb, ment at the end makes it a noun. So knowing how a word is constructed with an affix, you will know how to do that, and you will counteract some possible spelling mistakes. Definitely, again, phonetic spelling, like separate, definite. People will spell it definite. It's not as definite. Definitely. Again, you can find words within the words to help you. So this is a finite issue. Then you put the D and the li on the end, at the beginning and end, and finite becomes definite because it has been defined. You see, if you work out how the word has been put together, it makes the whole thing a lot easier. Pharaoh. I don't know how Pharaoh managed to get into this list. It is not a high frequency word, but it's there, so I'm going to talk about it. Very often people will invert letters, so the O and the A at the end of Pharaoh often get mixed around. I do this a lot with Hebrew names, so Daniel, Michael always used to get me, until I realized that the EL at the end of these words is a short form of God, El Shaddai. And therefore, that L, Daniel, Michael, all comes at the end. The EL always comes together at the end. That's how I remember it. But there's lots of words that do this. If it's a word you know you're going to use, check the spelling before you go in the room. And finally, publicly. Lots of people get this confused with ally at the end, A-L-L-Y at the end. So publicly, the ly at the end, the suffix ly changes the word into an adverb. Ooh. So just like an adjective describes a subject or object, a noun, an adverb describes a verb or possibly another adjective. So public is the main bit. Li is the suffix. Sometimes you have A-L-L-Y at the end of things, but that's because the root adjective will end in al, so you're just adding ly to that. Yeah, I can't think of one off the top of my head, and I should have written one down and I didn't. So let's scoot over that. These are the 10 most common spelling mistakes according to the Oxford English Dictionary. Make sure if you're going into the exam, you know how to spell simple words, high frequency words. That's words that you use a lot, very frequently. Okay, ready to move on? Well, let's do that then. Punctuation. Punctuation is awesome. I love punctuation. This is what the mark scheme says. Correct use of punctuation. For example, full stops, question marks, exclamation marks, commas, possessive apostrophes with occasional lapses. So no one is expecting you to be the most punctuational genius in the world. That's not a word. Let's skip over that. The things we're going to look at are end sentence punctuation, which we won't take very long on because most people know that, and apostrophes, which cause a lot of people problems. and cause me apoplexy. So let's start with end sentence punctuation. There's only three real things here. You got the full stop. That's when you're finishing a sentence. You make a statement, full stop. It's the most common one. The second one is an exclamation mark. Interestingly, there's actually a place in England. It's the only place in England that ends in an exclamation mark. It's called Westward Ho. If anybody happens to watch this from Westward Ho, give me a comment or a like. And that ends in an exclamation mark. An exclamation mark is when you're saying something that you really want to emphasize. Stop! Exclamation mark. If you really want to exclaim something, if you're shouting something. My wife just fell down the well! Exclamation mark. Question mark is the way you end a question. Stop me if I'm getting too technical here. As far as I know, there are no place names in England ending in a question mark. But feel free to correct me if you know better. A question mark comes at the end of a question. Your wife just fell down a well? Question mark. Very different from your wife just fell down the well! Exclamation mark. One is imparting information. One is asking a question. As against your wife just fell down a well, which is just, and full stop, which is just a statement which no one really cares about very much. By the way, just to be clear, my wife has never fallen down a well, as far as I know. Now, apostrophes. This is where it gets serious. Apostrophes are my pet peeve. I really like apostrophes being used well. I really don't like them being used wrong. So, please, make me a pledge now. Put your hand over your heart and raise your hand and say, I will never pluralize with an apostrophe. You've just said, I will never pluralize with an apostrophe. Good. I'm glad you will never pluralize with an apostrophe. Apostrophes are not for pluralizing. If you want to add an S at the end to make something plural, then add the jolly old S. Do not apostrophize it. If you apostrophize it, I will hunt you down, I will find you, and I will draw an apostrophe on your forehead. I won't do that, but you get the point. There are two official uses of the apostrophe. One is possessive, and the other is omissive. I'll explain those. A possessive apostrophe is one where it tells you who owns something. For example, Worcester Cathedral is the Cathedral of Worcester. It is Worcester's Cathedral. Beautiful place to visit, by the way. I highly recommend it. The daughter of Jenny is Jenny's daughter. Jenny's daughter. Notice the ending Y there. It's not Jenny IES daughter, because that's how you apostrophize something. That's pluralize something. That's how you pluralize something. So you would pluralize a word ending in Y by taking off the Y and adding IES. Sweetie, sweeties. But you don't do that to show possession. Now the different one here is Jesus's disciples. Here you can just put an apostrophe outside the S. So the word is Jesus. To make that possessive, you can put an apostrophe after it, Jesus's disciples. You don't have to add another S. You can. It's not wrong to do so, but you don't have to. So if you're writing about C.S. Lewis, Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia, Lewis apostrophe Chronicles of Narnia. That is the possessive apostrophe. Not to be confused with the omissive apostrophe. So this is where you're missing a letter or several letters out. Don't means do not. but we're missing out the second O, so it's don't. You shall not pass. No, that doesn't make sense at all. Leave that alone. So can't, again, is can not. We're missing some letters out, an N and a T and O there. So we just shove in an apostrophe to show that letters are missing. Till means until. We're missing out the un, so we put an apostrophe in front of it. We've already looked at they are, there. We're putting an apostrophe in to show a missing A. So when we're missing letters out, let's let people know that we're missing letters out with an omissive apostrophe. No other use of the apostrophe is acceptable. Don't do it. Let it go. Take it out of your mind and throw it in the bin. Okay? Thank you. So let's talk about grammar. Or grandpa. I'm quite open to either of them. See what I did there? Grammar. Correct use of grammar. For example, subject-verb agreement, consistent use of different tenses, definite and indefinite articles, with occasional lapses. So grammar is how the language actually works, the nuts and bolts of it, the mechanics of this beautiful language we have. I want to talk about a couple of things here. I want to talk about sentence structure. I want to talk about tenses. And I want to talk about articles. International students, you will actually be more comfortable with tenses than most native students, because we're not taught this way in English schools. Native speakers, you are going to find this bit very, very simple, the tenses and the articles, very, very simple, but you won't know why you find it simple. I'm going to tell you why. Okay. Let's start with a sentence structure. So there are three types of sentence structures. There's simple sentences, compound sentences, and complex sentences. I'm simplifying this. There are more. You don't need to know anymore. That is all you need to know. A simple sentence is one definite clause. That is, it has one subject, one verb, and it makes sense. Okay? One subject, one verb, and it makes sense. If it does not have a subject and a verb, a finite verb, that is a verb in a tense, then it is not a sentence. Okay? For an example of this, I am going to use the shortest verse in the Bible, which is from the Gospel according to St. John, chapter 11, 35. I'm going to read the whole verse now. You ready? Jesus wept. That's it. That's the whole verse. It's got a subject, Jesus, that's the person doing the verb, and a finite verb, the verb in a tense, wept, the verb to weep in the past tense. That is a simple sentence. It's two words. Of course, also you can have much longer simple sentences. Of course you can. But if it's just got one subject and one verb, it is a simple sentence. You should include some of those. You should also include some of these compound sentences. That's two simple sentences joined by and or but. Not just and or but. There are a few conjunctions here which can be remembered with the acronym fanboys. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so, fanboys. You don't really need to know any of that. And but are your bread and butter. If you've got two things joined together with and, if they are agreeing sentences, and but if they are disagreeing sentences, then that does the job. That does the job. So we could add to this sentence structure, this simple sentence. Jesus wept. he still prayed. Jesus wept, but he still prayed. You see what's happened here. We've got two simple sentences. He still prayed makes sense on its own. It could be a simple sentence, but because we've joined them together, they make a compound sentence. You should use a few of those in your writing because the examiner's looking for them. The other thing you should use in your writing, because the examiner's looking for them, is a complex sentence. A complex sentence is a simple sentence, that is a defining clause, plus a dependent or a subordinate clause. Now, here we have another acronym, but it's not nearly as easy to remember. I saw a wabub. I saw a wabub. I'm sorry, it's not great, is it? So what you're doing is you're joining things. You're joining a simple sentence, a defining clause, with an independent clause with a dependent clause. So because Lazarus had died does not make sense on its own. Oh, I should probably tell you what I saw a wabub means. If, since, as, when, although, while, after, before, until, because. You can now rewind the video and see me saying if, since, as, when, although, while, after, because, before, until, because, and again, or you can just Google I saw a wabub and see what happens. You might even find out what a wabub is. So, because Lazarus had died is not a full sentence. It doesn't make sense on its own. So we've got a subject, we've got a finite verb, but it doesn't make sense on its own. Jesus wept because Lazarus had died. Suddenly it makes sense because we've got a defining clause or an independent clause upon which the dependent clause relies. Now, therefore, try and get some complex sentences into your writing. And the easiest way to do that is use because. As soon as the examiner sees because, he knows he's got a complex sentence, which is exactly what he's looking for. That's sentence structure. Now let's talk about tenses. This is something that most English people won't have been taught. Unless English is taught better than when I was at school, which I know it is. There are 12 English tenses, but they can be split up. A tense is a way we talk about time. I'm sorry to go a bit Doctor Who timey-wimey on you here, but how we talk about the past, the present, and the future. We have simple sentences, continuous. We then have like sort of voices to go along with this. So or modes, excuse me, not voices. Voices, things like passive and active. We have modes: simple, continuous, perfect simple, and perfect continuous. If you've learned other languages, this won't be new to you. So let's have a quick look at how this works. So we'll start off with the past simple. In the past, so yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. And we're in the simple. Past simple, I passed my exam. Yesterday, I sat the exam, I got all the questions right, I passed the exam. Woohoo! Present simple is something that you do every day. I pass exams. Hey, what do you do? Hey, I pass exams, my friend. That's what I do. Yeah. Doesn't work so well with this example, but what do you do every day? Every day I get up at 7 o'clock, I have a shower, I eat my breakfast, I do the washing up, whatever it is. This is present simple, what you do on a regular basis. The future, grammatical purists say there is no future tense, only future forms. I don't care about that. I'm going to call this the future simple. I will pass my exam. I will pass my exam. So it's like a prediction of the future. It's something that is going to happen. Although I just used the present continuous in the future tense to express that. Let's talk about continuous. The past continuous is used to give background information. You were working as a waitress in a cocktail bar. You were working is past continuous. There she was, just a walking down the street, singing do-a-diddy-diddy-dum, diddy-do. She was walking down the street is past continuous. I was passing my exam. Hey, what were you doing at 3 o'clock yesterday? I was passing my exam, my friend. I was passing my exam. So I couldn't possibly have murdered the chicken. Present continuous is for what is happening right now. Notice what I said there. What is happening? I am passing my exam. What are you doing right now? Right now I am passing my exam, but please don't actually say that if you're in the exam, because you shouldn't be talking in the exam, because if you're talking in the exam, you'll get chucked out. Future continuous. I will be passing my exam. What will you be doing 2 years from today? I will be passing my exam. It won't take you 2 years. I will be passing my exam. So we then move into perfect. When we say perfect, it's a way of saying looking from a perspective. Okay, so the past perfect is telling a story from the perspective of the past. So when Caesar had said Veni Vidi Vici, he left. When he had said, that's a past perfect. Which Veni Vidi Vici, by the way, just means I came, I saw, I went home again because I didn't like the weather. Rough translation. So the past perfect, I had passed my exam. How did you get into university? Well, I had passed my exam, so it was easy. Present perfect is telling the story from the perspective of the present. So you're talking about past events, but you're speaking from the perspective of now. I have passed my exam. Can you go to university? Yes, because I have passed my exam. Can you get this job? Yes, because I have passed my exam. Could you get a job next week? Yes, because I will have passed my exam. You're telling the story from the perspective of the future. I hope this is making sense. I'm getting confused myself. And I've also noticed that my beautiful visage is going to be over the future perfect continuous, but I think you'll forgive me for that because it's just getting complicated by then. The past perfect continuous we would use. I had been passing my exam. Okay, it wouldn't necessarily be one there. I had been eating pies for 3 years when I won the pie eating contest. Pies. Move on. Present perfect continuous, similar. I have been passing my exam. It doesn't work very well for this one, but I have been practicing. I've been learning English for 3 years. I have been living in England for 5 months, and I already speak better English than you. Don't say that to an English person. That's liable to upset them. Future perfect continuous, however, I will have been passing my exam. Yeah, don't worry about that. It's not one you're going to use in regular, in most situations. But there it is. These are the tenses. You sometimes get mixed tenses, and you get conditionals, and there's various other formulations you get as well. But if you can master these tenses, these 12 tenses, you will have mastered 90% of the language, the grammar of the language. So notice the auxiliary verbs. I was passing, I am, I will be, I will have been. You've got 3 auxiliary verbs there, and then notice the participles. I was passing. Passing, the ing is the present participle. You don't need to know any of these terms. I'm just telling you because I want to look cleverer than I actually am. Let's talk about articles. Once again, we've got 3 articles. We've got the definite article, we've got an indefinite article, and we've got 0 articles. 0 articles are pronounced like this. Glad we got that sorted out. So let's talk about definite articles first. Definite articles is the. In German, they have 16 different articles. Der, die, das is just the beginning. They've got desums, they've got des, they've got all sorts. They've got about 16 different articles to use in different voices in different ways, which is terribly confusing. We only really have 2. We have the, which is for the first time we've mentioned something, or something that is defined: the moon, the sun, something that is the same. And of course superlatives: the biggest, the best. We would use the. If it's something that is or has already been defined. However, we also have an indefinite article, which is a or an. An has no grammatical use other than for pronunciation. It's just for pronunciation. An apple. So, which one would you use? Well, here's a nice way to check. I ate an apple for breakfast. The apple I ate. Which apple? The apple I ate. The apple was rotten. Why did I eat a rotten apple? It doesn't matter. If it's predefined, if it's defined, if it's defined, definite, we use the. The apple. Which apple? The apple I ate. If it's one of many, it's one thing: an apple, a banana. We would use also if it's countable. So I have a pound. I have a pound. However, I have some money. You can't say money. You can't say water. Although I'm about to drink some water. See, if it's uncountable. You can't count water, you can't count money, you count pounds. 1 pound, 2 pounds, 3 pounds. If it's uncountable, you don't use the indefinite article. You can use the definite article. The money. Which money? The money I gave you. Normally for uncountable things, that's things you cannot count. Stop me if I'm getting too technical. You use the 0 article, which is pronounced. Right, there's no article. So you would use this for things like home. I'm going home, not I'm going to the home or going to a home. I'm going home. I'm going to bed. Actually, I wish I was, but I'm not. I'm going to finish the video. For names of places, cross Green Street. Cross Green Street into Friars Way. For institutions, I'm going to school, I'm going to hospital, I'm going to work. Next week, last week, this would all be, what did you have for dinner? Not for the dinner, not for a dinner. What did you have for dinner? So meals, dinner, breakfast, lunch. All of these things use the 0 article. You do not put an article in front of it. Also, uncountable things. Water. So, I hope this SPaG video has helped you to put in context some of the things that you are being asked to do. Here endeth the lesson. However, just for a bit of a treat, I'd made an extra slide, which I'm just going to show you. Feel free to stop watching at this point, but I wanted to call it this, The Adventures of SPaG, including my friend SPaG. But I didn't use that. Guys, I hope this has helped. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I hope you all pass your exams. Thank you.